It's my honor now to introduce our keynote speaker, and that's Matt Davis. Now, many of you know Matt. He's become such a force of action in our community. In many ways, it's hard not to know Matt. You know, for instance, that Matt is the Vice President of Executive Communications, Government Affairs, and Community Relations for the Dow Chemical Company. In this role, he not only provides communication support for Dow Chemical Chairman Andrew Liveris, but he also represents Dow's strategic interests throughout the Great Lakes Bay region. In this latter position, you know that he took over a role many of us thought was going to be unfillable, and that was the role held by Mike Hayes. But Matt has found a way to extend Mike's exceptional legacy and become, like Mike, a vital part of this region's future. You probably know that he is a board member of the Great Lakes Regional Alliance and the Greater Midland Community Centers. He's active in the Lake Huron Boy Scouts, both as a fundraiser and as the chairperson for the nominating committee. And I need to point out he's a graduate himself of the Great Lakes Bay Regional Leadership Institute. And you know the company that Matt represents, Dow. You know it's a huge supporter of regionalism, whether it's support for the Dow Event Center, the Bay Area Family YMCA, the Pere Marquette Depot, or the Dow River Roar. For the many, many other events that they underwrite and fund, Dow has a long history of contributing to our region's success. Well, I could go on, but you get the idea here. He's out there, he's participating as a Dow representative, and as an individual, Matt has taken a proactive part in improving the entire region and ensuring that the Great Lakes Bay region grows and prospers. As I said, that's the external part, the part of Matt that you see every day, the part that most people know. What fewer people see, what might not be evident, is the real passion there. Matt has for our community a real love. It's not just a flurry of action that he goes through. He certainly knows how to get things done. It's the amount of personal responsibility and enthusiasm and excitement that he brings to every project he touches that makes him an extraordinary person. In fact, it's this zest for community service that makes him the excellent choice for our keynote talk today. So please, let me welcome Mr. Matt Davis.
There is no hope. Don't tell me tomorrow will be a better day. Thanks to your efforts, we face insurmountable hardships. And I do not, will not, believe that the Great Lakes Bay region is a great place to live. People laugh when they hear that. Those of you here today don't care about your neighbors. You are narrow-minded and petty. It is silly to think that I live in a place where people care about each other. Is our motto all for one and one for all? That's a lie and doesn't apply to us. Every man for himself, I say to you. Dividing our efforts is easier and more effective than working together. I tell you, our region needs to be united, but that's not the case here. This is a quick-fix society. Everyone knows I am living in a second-class region. I refuse to believe that there is hope.
And all of this could come true unless we choose to reverse it. Ladies and gentlemen, now is the time.
There is hope. I refuse to believe that I am living in a second-class region. Everyone knows this is a quick-fix society, but that's not the case here. Our region needs to be united, I tell you. Working together is easier and more effective than dividing our efforts. I say to you, every man for himself doesn't apply to us. That's a lie, and all for one and one for all is our motto. I live in a place where people care about each other. It is silly to think that you are narrow-minded and petty. Those of you here today don't care about your neighbors? People laugh when they hear that. The Great Lakes Bay region is a great place to live. And I do not, will not, believe that we face insurmountable hardships. Thanks to your efforts, tomorrow will be a better day. Don't tell me there is no hope.
Isn't it amazing what a change in perspective can bring? How things suddenly look and sound so much better when you refuse to buy into the doom and gloom. Eric, thank you for the introduction. And Mike, thank you for inviting me to speak on a critically important and urgent issue, our progress in becoming a truly vibrant region. You know, when I think about where we are, how far we've come, and how far we have yet to go, I have to believe there are still a lot of people in our region who have had negative thoughts, similar to those in the first part of the video. They are concerned about our future, but they have doubts. They have doubts that anybody can do anything about it. You know, in truth, I'll bet each one of us have probably fallen into that trap at some point in time. Too often, we can get hung up on the way things used to be, and we have trouble recognizing the potential of what could be in the future. And yet, here we are, some 500 of us, gathered to celebrate our progress, gathered to acknowledge a new way of thinking and doing that could indeed shape our future and our opportunities for years to come, that has the potential to transform the Great Lakes Bay region. But we're not there yet. We need to remember that the world is filled with unrealized potential. And even though the potential and promise we've created through our willingness to work a different way has accomplished a great deal, it's also brought us to a pivotal point, a great crossroad, if you will. A crossroad where we need to make a choice. Will we maintain our momentum and continue pushing forward, or will we slip back into reverse? Now, please don't misunderstand me. We have made tremendous progress. We've overcome our own doubts and our cynicism, and we've taken our region farther than probably most of us even believe possible. Let's remember this. If we had listened to our doubts, none of the riverfront here in Bay City would have been developed into the beautiful attraction it is today. If our doubts made the decision, we would not have the expansion of the Hemlock Semiconductor Corporation. We wouldn't have our solar projects, and we wouldn't have the Advanced Battery Joint Venture, all located in our region. If our doubts had their way, we wouldn't have the Saginaw Spirits, the Great Lakes Loons, or the #1 tennis town in the USA right in our backyard. Yeah, you can applaud for that. You know, and if our doubts had their way, we wouldn't be seeing the tremendous cooperation and collaboration of our economic development groups and our convention and visitors bureaus. And remember, if our doubts had prevailed, we wouldn't even have the Great Lakes Bay Regional Alliance. We wouldn't have any of those accomplishments, and our region would be a much poorer place because of it, if we had listened to our inner doubts. Well, you know what? Our doubters aren't as loud as they once were. Success has a way of making converts even out of the most vocal critics. But let's not kid ourselves. There are still some who would prefer that we slide back into our more comfortable roles, to revert back into our silos, where there is no cooperation, no regional support, no collaboration, and no teamwork. We must not allow that to happen. You know, Andrew Liveris spoke about 2 years ago to the Bay Area Community Foundation, right here in this very room, and he probably said it best. Regionalism is our only chance, perhaps our only chance, to transform Mid-Michigan into an exciting hub of economic opportunity. So where do we go from here? How do we grab those remaining doubters and pull them into our movement? How do we take advantage of this chance, perhaps our only chance, to ensure that our vision for our region becomes a reality? Now is the time to act. Let me suggest 3 actions that we must take now to ensure that our region will flourish, our people will prosper, and the Great Lakes Bay region will lead the renaissance of the state of Michigan. First, we must broaden our horizons. Secondly, we must pick up our pace. And finally, we must expand participation in order to become one true region. Now let me explain. It all begins with broadening our horizons. You know, when I first came to Midland as a young summer intern at Dow, 23 years ago, I know I don't look that old, but Midland was the center of my universe. I never thought about driving to Bay County or Saginaw County for anything. They were places to go by, not to stop in. My horizon was pretty much limited to Midland County. But one day, a colleague at Dow who lived in Bay County did something that began to change my horizon. He invited me to the River Roar. What an amazing event. The energy was absolutely electrifying as people of all ages stood shoulder to shoulder along the riverbank and watched as the professional racers roared down the river. Now, after the races were over, there was a small group of us. We jumped into our friend's boat and we headed across the river to a popular restaurant to pick up some chicken wings. I knew a few of you knew the place. I see Mike there often. Anyway, there were so many boats. We literally had to jump from boat to boat to boat just to get to the dock. Now, everyone was so friendly, enjoying the moment and sharing the laughs. You know, as I drove back to Midland that evening, I thought to myself, that was simply a blast. My horizon had begun to broaden. Now, fast forward a few years. Garrison Keillor came to perform at the Temple Theater in Saginaw. Now, I'm sure many of you know him in his popular radio program, A Prairie Home Companion. Well, you see, while studying at Michigan State University, a group of friends and I, we used to make it a routine to listen to his show every Saturday evening. Okay, yes, it's okay to find out what kind of a nerd was I to listen to a radio program on a Saturday evening in college. But nonetheless, we looked forward to it. But you know, I never had the chance to see Garrison Keillor in person until he came to the Temple Theater in Saginaw. Going back to Midland after that performance, I thought to myself, that was awesome. My horizon broadened a bit more. And just a little over a week ago, I had the delight to see the opening night of the musical Ragtime, one of my all-time favorite Broadway shows, performed at the Midland Center for the Arts. It was absolutely a Broadway quality show performed by people from this region. Bravo. Well, you know, this list could go on and on and on. My point is this. I discovered that there is world-class entertainment, cultural, educational, and business opportunities literally right here in my own backyard. I didn't have to go to Chicago. I didn't have to go to New York. I didn't have to go anywhere else in the state of Michigan. By broadening my horizon just a little, I could enjoy it all. And the best part, I could be back home in 25 minutes. Now that was a big mind shift for me. And the realization that none of our counties has it all. None of our counties has it all. But together, we do complete each other. Yet there's some who refuse to see the realities of where we are today. You know, they're still living in a time when local community spirit trumped everything. It is one thing to gaze fondly on those days, but it is quite another to be so focused on the past that we're blind to see the possibilities of the future. If we're truly going to make regionalism work, now is the time to broaden our horizons and demonstrate the power of collaboration and cooperation. You know, it is okay to have community pride. In fact, I would say it's necessary. But we also need to have pride of region. You know, I have a confession to make. I will admit that when a business wants to locate in our region, most of the time, I hope it ends up in Midland, somewhere near my home. But if not Midland, then I will give all my energy to make sure that it is located in the Great Lakes Bay region. And if not our region, well, then I hope it ends up somewhere in our state. You see, it's okay to root for the home team, but we also need to root for each other and celebrate our collective successes. You know, you only have to look across the state to Western Michigan to see what happens when diverse communities come together as one. The Grand Rapids Holland Corridor has turned itself into an economic, political, and educational powerhouse. And now they're working on making themselves an indispensable medical hub as well. They have broken away from the past. They have embraced a future for the entire corridor. They have broadened their horizon. Job number one for each of us is to help our region broaden our horizon. We need to demonstrate that we're living in a new reality, and we have the chance to truly create a new history if we accept what is good for one is good for all. Which brings me to my second point. Now is the time to pick up our pace. You know, my fear, perhaps my biggest fear, is that we let our recent run of good news convince us that we've arrived, that we can slow down, perhaps not pedal as hard. I submit the opposite is true. Now is the time to strike. Now is the time to increase our involvement. This is the time to use our successes to open new doors and launch new projects. Because of your hard work, because of your willingness to think differently, and your willingness to take risks, you have made a difference to the Great Lakes Bay region. So far, so good. But we haven't come to the end. There's more work, much more work, that's left to be done, which means each of us must pick up our pace. I know I can certainly do more, and I believe that you can too. Now is the time, with momentum on our side, and move our cause into high gear. You know, don't wait for someone to ask you to participate. Volunteer, step forward, create your own momentum, and just as importantly, begin pulling others into our effort. You know, whatever a person's passion, gardening, the arts, fine cuisine, sports, you name it, we need to demonstrate that there is room in our tent for them. So pick a passion and begin moving. Be an active leader in helping our region to pick up the pace so we can compete and win. This focus reminds me a lot of marathon running. Now, you may not know it by looking at me today, but I used to frequently run marathons. It's true. I used to train and run with Mike Hayes, who many of you know, and who has been such an instrumental leader in our regional efforts. Well, one of my most exciting marathons was in 1997, when Mike and I decided to run the Detroit Marathon with the goal to both finish in less than 4 hours. Now, if any of you have ever run a marathon, you know that during that race, you go through every emotion possible. There were times when I was frustrated, I was tired, I was discouraged. Mike had to encourage me to pick up the pace and work through the pain. During other times during the race, I had to do the same for Mike. And in the end, we both pushed through that pain, picked up our pace, and we did finish in less than 4 hours. Now, I will always remember that feeling of accomplishment that Mike and I shared at the finish line that day. It will always stay with me. You know, our effort to become a truly remarkable region is much like a marathon. We must encourage each other to pick up our pace so we can feel that exhilaration when we achieve our objectives together. Which brings me to my third and final point. Now is the time to expand participation in order to become one true region. Let me put this as plainly as I can. You are a great team, day in, day out. You have dedicated yourself to help us move forward. And in just the past few years, those of you in this room today have accomplished more than I think anyone ever thought possible. But you know, the cold, hard reality is there is so much left to do, and we need more people. Yes, we need more hands, we need more backs to do the heavy lifting, but we need more ideas. We need more voices. We need more creativity. In short, we need a whole army of believers, people like you, who are willing to roll up your sleeves and begin asking the most mind-boggling question of all. We need more people asking, what if? What if? What if the Saginaw Bay became the center for all things Great Lakes, a preservation, historical, environmental, and educational mass for all of the Great Lakes? What if? What if we began building on our international mix of people and became the little United Nations of the Midwest, a center for international arts, food, debate, and education? You know, here's one that several people have already started. Instead of biking and walking trails in 3 separate counties, you know, they had the audacity to ask, what if? What if we had one trail that wove its way through all counties? Imagine the possibilities if we expand participation and get more people asking what if questions. We have a great start, but I submit that we can do more. In fact, we must do more, faster, with more people if we're going to make regionalism work. Now let your mind wander just for a moment. Imagine if we had twice as many people in our cause. Imagine if each one of us left here today with the mission that by the end of this week, we would pull in one more volunteer, one more believer. Imagine, just imagine, if next year we don't have 500 people here, but 1,000 who want to share their energy and enthusiasm. Well, you know this as well as anyone. We cannot do this alone, but neither should we even try. We need to expand participation, and we need to do it now. We cannot afford to wait. Now, in fact, some leaders have already jumped in and participated in the Great Lakes Bay Regional Leadership Institute, a program designed to educate and demonstrate the possibilities that exist in our region. Now, we've had 3 classes, and I know several of those people who have attended are here today. Can I please ask that you stand so we can thank you for dedicating yourself in this effort? Thank you. You are making a difference. They're a start, and we're accepting applications right now for the 4th class. So if you're interested, jump in and apply. I guarantee you will not regret it. You know, I was honored to be part of the most recent class. And what inspired me so much was that many of the graduates are natives to this region. They grew up here as kids, and they're still here as adults, committed to making the necessary changes so their kids will have the same or better opportunities than they had. So their kids will have a chance to discover, as you and I have, the beauty and the opportunities that exist right here in our own backyard. Now that is a truly noble legacy for all of us to pursue. You know, their commitment to our region, it reminds me of when I was growing up in the Flint area. It was during a time when Flint, well, kind of like it is today, was going through a crisis of faith. And there was someone who didn't believe, a doubter, who thought it would be funny to create and pass around bumper stickers that read, "With the last one out of Flint, please turn off the lights." Well, not everyone saw the humor in it. There were enough people who knew that if they gave up, if they turned off the city's lights, they would be turning off the only beacon of hope the people of Flint had. So they created a counter bumper sticker, and it read, "Leave the lights on, I'm staying." Ladies and gentlemen, because of your hard work, the switch has been flipped in the Great Lakes Bay region. A bright light of energy and enthusiasm has been lit, which is absolutely remarkable. However, if we slip, if we let that light dim even just a little, it'll be a long time before we have this kind of momentum again. And the opportunities that we have in front of us right now, they won't simply skip us. They will likely skip a whole generation. And by then, it'll truly be too late. Please don't let the light be turned out in our region. Not on our watch. Make no mistake, this is our task. The mission is before us. Now is the time to broaden our horizons. Now is the time to pick up our pace. Now is the time to expand participation. Together, we will make a difference, and we will make the Great Lakes Bay region the best place to live, work, play, and be educated. And no one will ever be able to reverse that. Now is the time. Thank you very much.